This country enjoys some of the most varied and the most breathtaking scenery in the world. From highlands to lowlands, from borderlands to lakelands. I'm determined to explore them all. But there's more than that. My mission, if I choose to accept it, is to take on a challenge left for me by an unseen hand. Hunt a vampire. Each of those challenges will force me to get under the skin of wherever I am. Right. However demanding they are. Whoa! And today I'm going into one of the most beautiful chalk landscapes in England. I'm going to the South Downs. This little hut was originally built as an aid to communication with France. It took the cable that came ashore when Morse code was used to transmit messages here to the south coast of England. And if I look out the window there, I can see the Seven Sisters. These cliffs are the end point of the South Downs, a range of curvaceous hills that rise up from the south coast of England and stretch 100 miles from Eastbourne to Winchester. Underneath the lush green turf are hundreds of feet of sedimentary rock. It was formed 90 million years ago from the calcium remains of tiny creatures who once lived in the ooze at the bottom of the sea. It's time to leave my historic cable hut. I've got hills to climb. These Sussex hills are essentially one gigantic piece of chalk. I'm hoping to catch... Your challenge is to catch a sheep. A sheep. Okay. The hills that lie before me were shaped by sheep. I understand this reasoning. Sheep were once as important to the South Downs as oil is to Saudi Arabia. I'm being challenged to catch one as a way of getting to understand this landscape. But first, I need to cross the River Cuckmere. Well, it's easier said than done. It's too deep for walking boots, so there's nothing for it but to go barefoot. My first experience of this rugged, demanding landscape.
Who'd have thought it?
Ow! Having survived the Cuckmere, I can finally crack on with my journey over the South Downs. But first, the white stuff. Dazzling, isn't it? That's what sailors saw when they were arriving, and they called it the White Place. Albion. Derived from ancient Greek, Albion is also the oldest known name for the islands of Great Britain. And of course, it was because of the invasion of this vast chalk scene by the English Channel millions of years ago that Britain became an island in the first place. With an elevation of 217 metres, my first stop, Firle Beacon, is one of the highest points on the Downs.
So you put it on like a jacket.
Yes. Paragliding expert Tim Cox is going to help me get a bird's eye view of the surrounding countryside. But don't forget to sit back once we go. So, but maybe this is an extreme way of doing it.
Okay. And we're able to hands back.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, Griff, you ready?
Yes, I am, yes.
Okay, we'll try it.
No, I'm not actually ready for this. It's terrifying. And the wind seems to be dragging us the wrong way. But Tim takes control, and the next moment... Halt! How incredible!
Like down here.
1 minute we are on the ground, and the next we've just flapped a bit and we've taken off. We're using updrafts to gain lift. It's totally exhilarating. With the right wind behind them, some paragliders have travelled as far as 400 miles in a single flight. Below me is an area of shorn grassland, the typical look of the Downs. We've got cows over here. So far, I can't see any form of ovine flock at all. No, nothing. Although this is sheep country. 200 years ago, the flocks would have been everywhere. They outnumbered man 10 to 1 on the South Downs. It was one of the highest concentrations of sheep to be found anywhere in the world. But no longer. After centuries of being nibbled, fertilised and weeded by sheep, South Downs grass is held to be amongst the finest in the world. It's been used to turf Wembley Stadium, Wimbledon's Centre Court and the Queen's front lawn at Windsor Castle. But that's not its only attraction. The distinctive and almost feminine contours of the landscape have attracted generations of nature lovers.
The South Downs was effectively the original beauty spot. It was these hills that people first began to think were the epitome of gorgeous rural nature at its best, as long ago as 1600. It's rather surprising it took them so long then to make it a national park, which they didn't do until 6 years ago.
But this recognises a change. Sheep walks have given way to guided walks. The South Downs Way runs the entire 100-mile length of the national park. Once the preserve of shepherds and travellers, this distinctive chalk path is now the focus of every kind of leisure activity. But a few miles to the west, I need only drift off the path a bit to find evidence of more ancient history. A feature of the Downs are their steep hillsides, and this one plays host to a rather extraordinary figure. It's called the Longman of Wilmington, and it's visible for miles. This is the second largest giant man carved on the side of a hill in the world. The other one is in Peru. But to be honest, I think I might have a better chance of spotting that. When you get close to it, it's impossible to find. This is it! I'm on the Longman. Close to, you see. It's a disappointment. It's not even made of chalk. It's made of breeze block. It was, in fact, made of brick about 150 years ago, but that all wore out. So they had a nice British solution. A bit of breeze block, a bit of lime paint, and there you go. Nobody really knows how old the Longman is or quite what he symbolises. But his prominent place in the landscape means he's rarely left alone for long. The Longman is the subject of any number of pagan rituals during the year, and I wonder if this is one of them. Are you Morris dancing?
We are indeed. We are Longman Morris men, and we are out celebrating the dawn of the day.
Lovely.
This is the Longman behind you here.
I noticed
this is
him, yes.
Our emblem.
But you're not some sort of pagan rite.
No, not at all.
This. Not at all?
No,
Morris dancing?
There are some pagans in the Morris, but it's not a prerequisite.
How long does it take to learn?
We tend to dance in the summer, practice in the winter, and by one practice season, we're comfortable. You're out and dancing.
Okay.
We can get you through it. We can get you through it. Would you want to try one?
Now that is a silly question. Just for the final touch, do I look?
I think you're
like
looking the
a Morris
part, and then we
dance?
give you a couple of sticks. And then what we'll teach you is the Longman, our signature dance. Forehand, backhand. Oh, to get this right.
I see why you wear the hat.
The hats give you a bit of protection.
Hey, little dance!
for the giant Longman, entitled the Longman.
Morris dancing is thought to be about 600 years old, but it almost disappeared a century ago. By the 1950s and 60s, we began to mourn our lost rural past, and so Morris dancing returned with a vengeance. Nowadays, there are hundreds of Morris dancing teams performing up and down the country.
So that's all
right, I'm addicted already.
That's the chorus.
Wait till you get to the beer.
But I can't stay to gallivant in the valleys. I have a quest. And look, here's a golden opportunity for me to have a go at my challenge. For shepherds who have to shear their flock and check their teeth, it's part of the job. But they must have a more effective way of doing it than this. This is a lesson in how not to catch a sheep.
I don't know which came first, the woolly jumper or the sheepdog.
A shepherd would come in useful, but where to find one?
Well, it suddenly turned very blowy. This is the Devil's Dyke behind me. It's whistling up the cleft, and I need a lift.
We're in a car park with some of the finest scooters in the south. 50 years ago, the South Downs were the last hurdle in the London to Brighton commute of two warring tribes, the mods and the rockers. This is a group of born-again mods, and I'm going to get a lift from their leader, Mark Jeffrey.
I just have to hold on tightly, right?
Yeah, well, we won't be going fast. They're not that fast.
No, it's more about style.
Oh, absolutely.
Style than sort of
Style,
than power.
of course. That's why I've got this helmet as well.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
Some of these bikes are more than 50 years old, yet they look as though they've just rolled off the production line. And we're off. We may not be travelling at warp speed, but we are hogging the road in a group formation. That's the whole point of mods on scooters. But I'm not going all the way to Brighton to fight the rockers for a place on a deck chair. Besides, I could never decide which tribe I was in. I've been dropped off in Ditchling, and I can't believe my luck. I've chanced upon a rare sight indeed. These ladies are playing Stoolball, the ancient forerunner to cricket, and that was supposedly invented by shepherds. Stoolball originated here in Sussex. Team captain Susie Harrison explains how it was created.
It derived from milkmaids. They would have a milking stool with a handle. They decided to pick up their stool and play in the fields after milking.
Do you have 6 balls in an over?
No, we have 8.
So you've got more balls than cricket?
Well, cricket originally had 8 because their game started from our game.
Is it possible for me to have a go?
Yes, certainly.
I'm not a bat and ball sporting man. I quite like sport of one kind or another, but bat and ball, I've got no hand-to-eye coordination.
Keep your eye on the ball. But
Right.
that's the best advice I can give you. You've got to watch the ball all the way onto the bat.
What's remarkable is that I could have been walking along here 600 years ago and seen exactly the same game being played. Back then, everyone would have worked in agriculture. Some of these ladies may even have been shepherdesses. Not anymore, alas, but I'm glad to see that an ancient game is being kept alive.
The secret of Stoolball, I've already discovered, is just to put
You just hold it as out in the distance, sort of waggle it about. And luckily, 3 times out of 3, you sort of just make contact with the ball. But naturally, my good luck then runs out. Playing this game, however, is rather taking my eye off my own ball. I've decided to move on to the medieval village of Alfreston. After all, this was once the centre of the lucrative wool business. Wool and mutton brought considerable wealth to the area, and that wealth is reflected in the grandeur of Alfreston's parish church. But of course, that was more than 600 years ago. Well, it's hopeless. I'm never going to catch a sheep. I need to go somewhere for inspiration and meditation. It's a wonderful, rather beautiful, and frankly, huge space. This is just parish church, but humble it isn't. It's justly known as the Cathedral of the Downs. And it is actually giving me some inspiration, because up there in the east window, I can see that all the bishops here are holding exactly what I need to catch my sheep. A crook. At last, I know what I'm looking for. And this is what every little village in the countryside needs. A hardware shop. And here are the sort of things that any self-respecting shepherd might use to hook a sheep. I think I might fall foul of the RSPCA though. Bye-bye. Excuse me, I wonder if you can help me. Do you by any chance have a shepherd's crook here?
I'm afraid not, sir.
Have you ever sold shepherd's crooks?
Not to my knowledge, no. No.
Right. But there are other local possibilities. Until about a century ago, if you wanted something made from metal, you went to your blacksmith. Hello? Often doubling up as dentist, doctor, vet, and even undertaker, the blacksmith was held to have magical skills in the way he could transform metal. Some villages even banned blacksmiths because of the fear of association with witchcraft. Built in 1907, Glynde Forge still uses the original coke ovens, and smithy Terry Tyhurst is giving me a crash course in shaping red-hot metal. This is a skill that goes back more than 3,000 years.
Right, let's take another beat.
Okay. Right. So what sort of metal is this?
We're using mild steel, which is this is 10 mil round or 3/8 imperial. You know, quite easy to work.
Mild steel needs to be heated to over 1,200 degrees centigrade to be malleable enough to work. Terry has agreed to make me a genuine shepherd's crook using a design that's been handed down by generations of blacksmiths. They've been making crooks for shepherds in this particular forge ever since it was built. Ah. And now the crucial moment, when the tapered end is bent to make a working tool that's used to hook the sheep's leg. And then the final touch. The tail end of the rod is twisted round on itself so that it doesn't poke the sheep accidentally. So that goes through there, and you end up with the tool you require. It'll mean that I'll get my quest done, I hope. Here we are. The finished article. Excellent. Look out, sheep. After travelling the length and breadth of the South Downs, I've finally tracked down a shepherd in East Dean. Terry Wigmore has found me a tame flock from which to catch a sheep.
Here we are. Shall I stick my hand in there?
Yeah,
just to see? Now, all of a sudden, this is like being in the middle of a Greek carpet.
When they're tame like this, you can just get hold of them and sit them down. But
Of course.
normally they would be a bit more flighty, and then you would hook their leg and just give it a twist so the sheep can't escape, and then hold it under the chin, pop it down.
And there's your sheep.
Yeah. Once they're on the back like that, they're pretty immobile, so you can do their feet, look at their teeth, and shear them or whatever else you want to do.
My turn.
I get it round and
Hook it round the leg and twist it straight away.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Catching a sheep was once one of the most important skills you could have living on the South Downs.
Oh, yes.
Yes, grab my...
By learning how to do it, I'm getting a taste of a now disappearing life that really shaped this glorious and distinctive landscape.
Lady, come back. Come back. Have I got her in the right way there?
That's it. Pull it right back till she's
Pull her
sitting
right
up
back
straight.
until she's sitting on her
That's
back.
it. Yeah, you got it.
OK.
Do you want a job?
Terry, there we go. Job done. Sheep well and truly caught. Marvellous.